Coach Rick Neuheisel, CBS Sports, joins us now on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. What's up, Coach? How are you?
How are you? And I'm with you on Evan Neal and being the number one pick. Jags got it again. Why not protect last year's number one pick?
That's true. He needs help. He obviously needs help. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of the quarterback position, you obviously played it. You've coached it. Bryce Young, it's one season, but where does he rank? I think about great quarterbacks, Charlie Ward and Deshaun Watson. Where does Bryce Young this one season rank with you?
Well, it was a sensational year. And what was interesting, so it's sometimes hard to evaluate quarterbacks on great teams. But by Alabama standards, this wasn't a great team for much of the year. This was a team that found ways to win, but against LSU, obviously against Auburn, A&M actually knocked them off. This was a team that, had some flaws, that had to overcome adversity. And given that and the way he kept his poise throughout it all, given lack of experience and such, I think it was a remarkable season. And I think he's got a chance to be a very, very special player in his continued career at Alabama, but also beyond. I liken him to Kyler Murray. And they're both a little diminutive, and when you look at the dimensions of the normal star at the position, but their ability to create plays that aren't scheduled and their ability to never look rattled is really unique.
Rick Neuheisel is with us on the next round. Coach, instantly after the SEC championship game, you had people saying that Georgia had been overrated, that they've been pumped up too much all year long. Do you think this Georgia team was as good as we thought they were going into that game? And they just had a bad game and Alabama had the right plan? Or did this team not get challenged and maybe we thought a little too much of this team?
Well, maybe a little of both. I think this is a fabulous football team. You don't end up giving up less than a touchdown a game until you meet Alabama all season long and not be pretty well constructed. I think it's a really, really good football team, and there's no question that they deserve to be in the championship game. There's no question about that. What you wondered about them is, could they win a shootout? And I thought there were only two teams in the country that could put them in that harm's way, which were Ohio State and Alabama. And when I was doing the SEC championship game for CBS, I said, this is their chance to knock them off because Alabama is going to be healthier 4 weeks from now. Brian Robinson's going to be healed up. The offensive line's going to have a chance to fix the issues that were plaguing him. This is obviously in the pregame conversation. Have the chance to fix the problems that were ailing them in the Auburn game. You better get them now. And I still feel that way. I think Georgia's wonderful, but Alabama's better than they were that night. And if Alabama protects tonight, I'm taking the Crimson Tide.
Coach Rick Neuheisel is with us. You can follow him on Twitter at Coach Neuheisel. See him on CBS Sports. He's with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. John Parker Wilson, the former Bama quarterback, you know him. He was with us earlier in the show. I asked him this question. I'll ask you the same question from a coaching perspective. Obviously, from a coaching perspective, this could be a little bit different. Do you think this is more difficult, the second go-around on Dan Lanning and Kirby Smart, trying to react to what did not work against Alabama, or on Bill O'Brien trying to be a step ahead of those guys, knowing what work may not work this second go-around?
Great question. Great question. I think for Dan Lanning and Kirby Smart, they have to simplify. As I went back and watched, and I think that's clearly the side of the ball that matters most tonight. I think Georgia's offense and Alabama's defense are going to play to 24 to 31 points. I just think that it's going to be, good on good and somewhere between 24 and 31, unless Georgia's really loose with the ball. That's what Georgia's going to score. So the question is, what does Georgia's defense do against this high octane offense. People are asking about the loss of Messi. What does that mean to the deal? But when you look at that game and you watch it carefully on film, there were a lot of complicated coverages that Dan Lanning and Kirby tried to concoct to take these big plays out of the deal. Almost all of them blew up in their face. They just were miscommunicated. Scene and Ringo, who play into the boundary more often than not, got it confused as to who was taking whom, and Bryce Young almost always took them to task for doing so. They had a bunch of spies, meaning that in pass rush, they'd leave one guy back to take care of the quarterback and make sure that he wasn't going to make a big play with his legs, in particular when they were playing two deep, man under coverage. The spy never touched Bryce Young. He wasn't good enough. He wasn't athletic enough. That's got to get corrected. They played a bunch of pass rush twists. And if you go back and look at Auburn's 6 sacks in that Iron Bowl, they weren't twists. They were speed rushes off the edge. Obviously enhanced a little bit because of crowd noise, but bottom line is they were speed rushes and put Bryce Young in harm's way, having to climb back into the pile. I think that's going to get corrected. So I think it's going to be a much simpler plan for the Georgia, and whether or not Alabama can protect it, hopefully taking advantage of the 4 weeks to recuperate in that front and so forth and play their best game. You got to know that Nick Saban coach teams are going to play their best game, or you have to at least assume that's going to be the case. And I still like the Crimson Tide.
It's hard to believe neither one of these guys is draft eligible, but if you could rep one of these guys for the next 5 to 10 years, Brock Bowers or Will Anderson?
Those are both good ones. If I get to be their agent, I'm going to take Will, just because that pass rushing thing probably is a little bit more expensive than the tight end. Although Kittle
is he the best player on the field tonight, Will Anderson?
He's special. And don't think it doesn't sit in his craw that he's from Georgia. And he was a late recruit for the Georgia Bulldogs. And don't think Nick Saban hasn't reminded him, as he reminded us all with the yummy rat poison. Listen, Will Anderson's special, but so too is the unicorn in Brock Bowers.
Go back to the SEC championship game, and what did Alabama do to Jordan Davis that just eliminated him from being a bigger factor? What happened in that game to him?
Jordan Davis was, as I watched that film again, Jordan Davis was fine in the run game, but Jordan Davis, the up-tempo, and Jordan Davis, I'll say Charleston Southern and Georgia Tech. I mean, those two games, he probably didn't play much, and he was out of shape. I mean, I think that can be corrected too. So I think we're going to get a more consistent pass rush. Bill O'Brien's tempo will be important, and staying on the field and not having 3 and outs tonight is critical. Most of those drives were 7-8 plays, after the first drive that went 4 plays. I mean, they stayed on the field, unless it was a big play like Williams making the touchdown catch, right? But keeping Georgia out there for a number of plays and tiring that front out is also a critical factor tonight.
You are very best.
All right, he is Coach Rick Neuheisel. You can follow him on Twitter at Coach Neuheisel. See him on CBS. Coach, thank you so much for breaking down the game with us. Always fun talking with you.
All right, guys. Enjoy. Take care.
All right, you too. That is Coach Neuheisel with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.